Today in history, in 1912, Juliet Gordon Low formed the first troop of American Girl Guides, later Girl Scouts, in Savannah, Georgia. And they have been baking cookies ever since.
Welcome to What the Fuck History, where we discuss the wackiest and weirdest things that make us say, well, what the fuck history. I am your host, Zachary, and I have a confession to make.
Yeah?
No,
that's where I have a confession to make.
That was the pause where we start talking.
Oh shit. Okay. Hi. My name's Meghan, and I'm bad at reading the room.
I'm Matt, and that was the part where I talk.
He's also bad at reading the room.
The only thing I have in my notes is today I learned that my days off don't really count as days off, which is a sad realization.
Oh, well, yeah. I was angry for you today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew that I was going to have to work this morning. Like, that was built into my day.
Yeah.
But then to come home, and then I called my boss to say that, like, I was dealing with a work thing, and she goes, "Why are you dealing with a work thing on your day off?" And I was like, "Because if I don't, Comcast will just keep calling me." And I was like, and I don't want that for my day off, so I'd rather just spearhead it, get it over with, and move on with my day. And it turns out that I was done relatively soon after.
Well, that's good.
You know, I was just on the phone with idiots for 2.5 hours. Not that long. Yeah. It was only 2. But anyways.
Oh, only 2?
Yeah.
Yikes.
No, I mean, it's so interesting when you call Comcast and they're like, this big tech, like everyone knows who Xfinity is, everyone knows who Comcast is, and then you get on the phone with literally anyone from that company, and they're like, "Hi, I'm going to transfer you to sales." And then you get on the phone with sales, and they're like, "Can you confirm your address?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then they're like, "Oh, we're going to transfer you to," and it's like, everyone asks you the same question. They ask you for the account number 15 times. It's like, you should never be so big that you have 17 different departments that are going to, fuck me around like that.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like, the rage was palpable in the group chat when I was like, "I'm on the phone with Comcast," and you were like, "Fuck!" But anyways.
I dealt with Comcast earlier this year, awful. So I feel you.
Literally the worst. All right, kids. We have
Yeah, go on. Tell me what we've done.
We've reset our strikes to 0 is what we have done, and we played a fake game of rock, paper, scissors. And the order that was determined way earlier today, before rock, paper, scissors was even mentioned, was Zach, followed by Meghan, followed by me. So, Zach, take it away.
Okay.
All right, get her done, Zach.
It is the time for my confession.
We didn't have to wait too long, friends.
I know.
Thank God.
But before I confess, before I prostrate myself in front of you and
Forgive me, Daddy. I have done wrong.
Yes. Beg your forgiveness. I need promises from both the hosts and listeners alike that no one's going to give me shit for this.
Hey, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how to give you that.
Speak on behalf of all of our listeners, but I'm gonna. You're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good. It's fine.
There's an anti-strike clause for what I'm about to say in the next couple seconds. Here,
What?
correct?
Oh, we're invoking an anti-strike clause.
Because this is a big
seems
confession.
like a cheating. This seems like cheating.
This does
but
seem
I'm
like a way to
interested.
circumvent the strike rules.
Yes, please, go on.
Here's the thing. Guys,
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Zach's never seen Tombstone.
maybe the French
Oh
aren't
my
so
God, the
bad.
whole time?
No,
No, shut up. No, shut up, Zach.
No.
I know. Hold up.
You
Hold
don't
up.
get to invoke
Hold
an
up.
anti-strike clause and then say something like that.
Hold up.
Not on this podcast.
Let me get to my point.
Right.
Because I am usually the first one to be upset at them, but lately, between my desire to build a guillotine and people like the subject of who I'm going to be talking about tonight, the French don't all suck. Parisians suck, but the French people think that too, so I feel it's safe to narrow and hone in my loathing.
We detailed that last time I spoke, where I said that there was a person who had been born a male and chose to be a female, and the French were like, okay. But,
Yes.
come on, man.
I know, but here again, I'm bringing up a really cool French person tonight, so,
Okay, so this
maybe they
person
don't-
is cool. The French
I'm just saying,
are not.
I may be willing to give them more of a pass than I've given them in the past.
Due to the fact that there's an
Seems like a big
anti-strike
ass.
clause in place, I cannot give you a strike. Just know that I'm
I
thinking
know, I can't
about it.
believe we.
You're thinking about it, and I understand.
I
but
just can't
let me
believe we
convince you
agreed to
with
this.
wild man.
Okay. I'll allow it.
I'm willing.
Now, I say this, and I beg your forgiveness as I'm about to shoot myself in the foot as I vomit out a whole bunch of incomprehensible words, because the French language is rock hard for vowels for some fucking reason.
Vowels that don't even make the vowel noises.
Exactly. So, again, shooting myself in the foot a bit, but you know what? It is what it is. Because tonight we will be discussing Pierre Torel, Signor de Bayard, otherwise known as Chevalier de Bayard. I will probably just call him Chevy for simplicity.
Chevy Chase.
Chevy! So, Chevy was a French knight in the early 1500s who is so fucking badass that he became known as Le Chevalier sans peur et sans reproche, or the knight
Holy
without
shit.
fear and beyond reproach.
Oh my god.
However, he preferred his title of Le Bon Chevalier, which is the good knight, and I think that that's so sweet.
I like that because he can kill someone and be like, "Good night."
It could also be a show on CBS.
Exactly, but I like
could
Megan's point of
also.
like stab someone to death
And say
to
good
death
night.
and just like, oh, bon chevalier.
Bon Chevalier.
Imagine
Just
him
put
saying
both
it in
hands
his little
underneath
French
his
voice.
Just like both hands under his chin with a little impish smile. Oh, it's me, bon chevalier.
All right,
Bon
we gotta stop
Chevalier.
speaking French.
And now that I have flexed those French skills, Matt, and also don't at me French people, you just got on my fucking good side. Let's actually talk about the good night.
Imagine we get a message that's just like, oui, oui. You speak French like an idiot. And then Zach comes in next recording session and he's like, guys, we hate the French again.
You bastardise that language, you miserable lout.
Your mother was a
French.
hamster and your father smelled of elderberry. Now go away before I taunt you a second time.
Second time. Exactly.
I taught you.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Now, Chevy was the son of a noble in a long line of nobles, all with military backgrounds. And he serves...
Classic.
Classic, you know. Classic knightly nepotism. What are you gonna do?
Nepo baby.
Nepo baby.
Nepo baby.
That's the name of the episode, Nepo Baby,
baby.
implied French accent.
You have to have like an accent or an accent mark over the
Baby.
Nepo baby.
Baby.
Jeez. Okay, so he's a page for the Duke Charles of Savoy, until King Charles VIII, too many fucking Charleses,
There are so many
Scoops him up.
Charleses.
oh I know, scoops him up into service after Chevy is seen doing some wild-ass horse stunts in a show that the Duke of Savoy had him put on. You know, he's sitting there doing fucking kick flips with a stallion, and the king's like, I need that boy on the field. When you pull a Christ air off of a fucking horse, you know?
He ran it up a
That's
half pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did, again, he kick flipped a horse, so the king was like, I fucking want that guy on my team.
Yeah.
And so he enlists as a knight in the service of the king, and Pierre does a lot of fighting, naturally. As soon as he enlists, the French are involved in the first French-Italian War, because there's more than one. And he fights in the Battle of Naples in 1994, the Battle of Fornovo in 1495, and continues to fight in all these battles, but he truly gains his famousness when he is in Italy. Because, he's in Italy in 1502. A Gascon by the name of Gaspar, hold with me, a Gascon by the name of Gaspar takes a Spanish knight by the name of Alonso de Stoudemire as a prisoner, which is wild because apparently, according to record, Alonso was like 6'6" and had the strength of 10 men.
Isn't it crazy how literally every single strong person from history is just like, he had the strength of 10 men?
Yeah, I wrote that because every record described him as having Herculean strength, and I was like,
well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Men were weaker
but
back
Hercules
then.
also had the strength of 10 men.
Men were
10
such
men
betas back then.
Men were such betas, so it took 10 men to be one man.
Yes, so Gaspar takes Alonso hostage and is ransoming him.
Like noodles.
Like noodles. There was a ransom for Alonso, and while he was waiting for the ransom, Pierre Chevy is like, hey man, Gaspar, you got a lot of other shit going on, and you're also not really treating Alonso very well, so let me take him off your hands. I can't have you treating prisoners badly, because despite him being the enemy, I'm all about doing what's best for people. I'm the Superman of the 1500s knights, so fucking hand him over. And Pierre then takes Alonso in and says, hey, you're a knight, I'm a knight, you deserve respect, all people deserve respect. I'm a knight, but I'm also a little bit of a hippie. Come hang out at my crib, where you'll be wined and dined every night until we get that ransom money we asked for so nicely. This is war, we have standards, though.
Yeah, welcome to my chateau. You will be a prisoner.
Yeah, so Alonso hangs out at Chateau de Bayard for a time.
Of course.
And he gets released because they get the ransom money, because, I don't know, Spain was willing to pay. And as soon as Alonso is released back to the Spanish, he goes around and is like, hey, this guy Pierre, whose house I stayed at, fuck him. He's an asshole. He treated me like shit. Fuck that guy. I'm gonna fuck him up every chance, whenever I get the chance. And Pierre, who just finished his best bottle of wine on Alonso several nights before, is like,
Annoyed in French.
how dare you? How dare you slander me, good sir? I cannot take this. And he pulls this glove from his belt and challenges Alonso to a duel to the death to preserve his honor. Naturally. And Alonso, who is 6'6", and despite Pierre being larger than average, is still like, half a foot shorter than Alonso. And Alonso's like, sure, man, you want to fight to the death? I'll fucking fight you to the death. And
don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm a big old fucking dude. And at this time that Pierre thinks it's a great idea to challenge a Spanish giant to a fight to the death, Pierre is getting royally fucked up by malaria.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting royally railed by malaria.
Royally railed.
Secretly railed.
And is secretly royally railed.
Yeah, secretly royally railed. Wow, that's a...
It's a word. It's a phrase.
It's a phrase.
And so he's like super emaciated and physically ill and just looks like garbage, feels like garbage, and probably fights like garbage. Which, because it's a duel and it's the 1500s and there are fucking standards, as I said, it grants him the ability to call up a pinch hitter from the dugout to kill some dude in his stead. But Pierre, once again being a man of honor, says despite the fever, the cough, the diarrhea, the vomiting, and the general lethargy, get me fucking strapped up, I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
So Pierre gets put in his armor and goes and lays out in the middle of a field and takes a nap for a little while because, well, Pierre was...
Of course.
Because he was being railed.
Because he was being railed
He
by
was
malaria.
being railed.
Pierre was
royally
also...
railed.
Royally railed. Pierre was also a man of God and was like, I'm gonna sit with God for a moment, and if I die, I die. And if
Bask
I don't,
in the
well,
Lord's
Jesus
sun.
can't...
I'm gonna bask in the Lord's
I don't
sunlight.
want Jesus to know that I'm getting royally railed, so we have to hide this.
And after his quick little power nap with God, Pierre is ready to go. And Stoudemire, being the challenged, gets to pick the weapons, and he picks sword and dagger, and for that the fight to be fought on foot. Because he thinks the size advantage is going to go to him, which makes sense, but this whole thing is extremely unconventional because everyone normally picks on horseback and with lances, like a gentleman.
Like a gentleman.
Wonderful.
But Pierre does not flinch, and he says, bring it, big boy. I fucking got this. I have the power of God and anime on my side.
French anime.
And Stoudemire tries time and time again as this duel begins to basically take his sword with two hands and chop it downwards on Pierre's head, trying to split it like a log. And
Of course.
Pierre keeps dodging out of the way of this because it's a big, heavy-handed, slow attack. And by the fourth time that the giant Spaniard misses, Pierre gets sick of his shit and fucking, like Master Chief, finishes the fight by sidestepping him, thrusting his sword upwards into Stoudemire's chin, and then Stoudemire goes to his knees, taking the dagger and putting it through his eye. Because I guess
Holy
that's how
shit.
you finish it.
Finish him.
That is how you finish it.
And naturally, as soon as this happens, everyone on the French side of this duel is like, fuck it. We're partying, let's play him out, he just won. Fucking get the drums and the fife, let's play that theme song. And as soon as they start going crazy, Pierre's like, no, shut the fuck up. I just killed a man. Does not matter if he was my enemy.
Wow.
A life is a life. I'm gonna go pray. Leave me the fuck alone.
I must pray.
But like, honestly, respect for that. Like, all of your dude bros are like, fuck yeah, you just killed a guy. And you're like, yes, I just killed a man. Have some fucking respect for the dead.
They're like, no, I'm sorry.
And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. You got that one on me, Pierre. And he can, after that, that's where he kind of like gains his big famousness, I guess. But he continues his fame tour in the 1500s during the Battle of This one's a weird one, and I apologize for the
Do
tripping
not
up.
apologize to the French.
No. This is an Italian word. It's the Battle of
Oh yeah,
Garagolano.
no, definitely apologize to the Italians.
It's, Garagolano.
Hey,
What?
that's my cousin, Jimmy Garagolano.
Garagolano. Where in 1503, during the lovely autumnal season, may I add.
Autumnal is a
French
top
army-
shelf word.
I know. As is Garagolano.
Garagolano is a top shelf Italian word.
So the French army is moving towards Naples, and they reach the Garagolano River. And the river is flooded at the time, so the French are like, well, we gotta fucking cross this somehow. Let's build a boat bridge and make camp on the dry side, because the Spanish are
boat
right on
bridge?
our asses. And...
Looks like you're on the wrong side of the river.
Side of the river! Yeah. It stays a bit of a stalemate in these conditions because of the height of the river and the fact that, like, the French are on one side and the Spanish are on the other. Oh, what are we gonna do? And that is until the Spanish realized that because of the French army being so large, they couldn't all be in one camp together. So they were like spread out along the river in small battalions. And so the Spanish crossed the river at the shortest point and attacked the smallest camp of the French army. And it didn't allow for the French army to have any time to mobilize and mount a defensive. And so as the French are scrambling and the Spanish are coming up this boat bridge to attack this camp, Pierre, being the most Chad knight ever, and again, with the power of God and anime on his side, says, "Bring it, fuckers," and stands in the middle of the bridge as the only thing between the French army and about 300 to 400 Spanish soldiers.
Did you guys not watch me fight Goliath a minute ago?
Did you not?
Any guesses who won that fucking fight?
That guy.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
That guy,
The guy
yeah.
who could fight the embodiment of Hercules.
If you said the Spanish, you'd somehow be wrong, but you said that fucking guy, so you're right.
I didn't have time to remember all the French that goes into his name.
Just Pierre or Chevy works. So Pierre is dodging arrows and spears left and right and repelling every single fucking Spanish soldier that tries to climb up the bridge to face him. And he is just determined to die on the spot. Because he's like, fuck it, I'm the first, last, and only line of defense for the French army. I am Pierre. I am the man. And he remains on this boat bridge until his friend is like, dude, we have to leave. And Pierre's like, fuck no, I'm dying here. And his friend goes, fuck you, you're not dying here. And he picks him up and runs away with him. Because
Nice.
at that
Wow.
point, the whole French army had retreated. And it was like...
That's a friend.
Pierre's like, no, I'm gonna die here in the service of my country. And his friend's like, why? It was
You
the fucking
literally
scene
don't
from,
have to.
It was the scene from Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan's just like, let me die here, Gump. Except he was
He's like-
winning. And he continues to fight a bunch of wars and a bunch of battles, and I can't take up the entire podcast talking about all of his fucking achievements, but let's leave it at he fights a lifetime of battles for 3 different French kings and was notable in at least 15 battles and was just renowned for his bravery and kindness. But the problem with being an absolutely legendary warrior is that all legends gotta end sometime, and Pierre cannot
Damn.
live forever. And in 1524, Genoa revolts, and Pierre is sent to quell the rebellion in Genoa. And he does so, and great, good job, Pierre, but as soon as he's done fighting in Genoa, he's immediately called to the front lines in Italy, because damn, France and Italy can't stop trying to fucking kill each other again, as I said.
Or
And
fucking each other.
we're fucking each other. It's either death or fucking, there's nothing in between.
There's no in between with them.
So, Pierre is once again called to the front lines of Italy, and while he is defending the towns of Romagano, Ciesa, and Gattinara, jeez, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
Pierre is mortally wounded by an arquebus.
A what now?
An arquebus?
An arquebus. A creature from the hells?
No, an arquebus was a long, old-timey gun. It's like a black
of
powder
course.
rifle before they just packed it in all in ones. It's really cool. I'll send you a picture. I'll send a picture in the group chat. So he's
I'll
killed by an
believe you.
arquebus ball, and as he's sitting in a field dying behind enemy lines, a former friend of his, the Duke of Bourbon, comes to Pierre's side and taunts him because the Duke of Bourbon switched sides. And he says, "Ah, Monsieur Bayard, I am so sad to see you in this sorry state." And Pierre, as Chad as ever, replies with, "Sir, there is no need to pity me. I die as a man of honor outright, doing my duty. But I pity you because you are fighting against your king, country, and your oath."
Damn.
And with that, Pierre Torel drops the mic, and dies on the 30th of April, 1524.
Damn.
Now,
Damn. That's
what I
metal.
love about this
Rip
guy,
to a legend.
and why I rip to a legend for sure, and why I have some renewed faith in the French, is he was an absolute badass. He took on a Spanish giant, 300, 400 Spanish soldiers, and fought in countless battles. At one point, the Pope was like, hey man, I want you on retainer. And Pierre said, first off, you can't fucking afford me. And second off, I only fight for France.
I only fight for France.
The Pope's Italian. Fuck the Italians. At least that's what Pierre thought. But on top of him being a total badass, he was extremely loyal, extremely kind, and extremely charitable. Every time he rode out into battle, he would go ahead of his warriors and personally help with plague victims. He helped recover and shelter homeless prostitutes. He would chastise and rebuke his fellow soldiers who did raids on villages after the battle was won. And whenever he requisitioned goods from towns, he would pay for it with his own money. He demanded to lead the vanguard and also fell back to the rear guard in retreats because every time after a battle he would, or before a battle would happen, if there was raiding that would happen, him and his men would spend their days extinguishing fires, like fixing buildings and placing sentinels at churches to help refugees of the towns that the French army had trampled through. And he had a strict no looting, no raiding, no rape policy for his entire battalion. And basically spent all of his life waging war, but then trying to do something about the repercussions of war. And while he's a total badass, he deeply cared about people, and I think that's really fucking cool.
No, that is.
He is, like, as much as he has, like, the Good Knight, the reason he's called the Good Knight is because he is seen as, like, one of the last people who, like, really held to the chivalric code of, like, yeah, we're instruments of war, but we're here to, like, actually do something good. And I was like, that seems that's the most badass part to me.
Indeed.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah,
You're right. That was cool, though.
That is the Good Knight. Le Bon Chevalier.
That is Bon Chevalier. Secretly railed by malaria.
Secretly railed by malaria.
The whole time.
Secretly royally railed.
The whole time. I can't believe it. Do you mind if I jump into mine?
Go ahead,
sis.
All right. So the title of mine is "We Eat Hot Chip, but Mostly Lie."
Callback joke. We love those.
A callback joke. We do love those. So as we all know, girls are bisexual. They eat hot chip, and most importantly, they lie.
Yes.
I love lying.
So doesn't Procopius, but continue.
Well, I think it's why women play D&D and why men said they couldn't play D&D for a long time. It's because we are too good at the lie.
Very good at lying.
We're so good at lying. We become new people. To quote some lady on the internet, if the men knew we could shapeshift, they are going to tell the church.
Yeah. That video is one of my favorites.
I love that video so much. So tonight, I would like to talk about a woman who obviously loved lying, like most women.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about a shapeshifter.
No, can you imagine? Hard
That
pivot.
would be so great.
Such a hard pivot. It's like, so now that I've led you into the woman aspect of this, let me tell you about shapeshifters.
Let me talk about a changeling.
Anyway, skinwalkers. Let me talk about changelings. So this lady was born Margaret Carolyn Youngson. Youngson. Margaret Carolyn Youngson. In 17. Yeah, she had the right amount of names.
Yeah, 3 is a good amount.
3 is a
Most
good amount.
people
We
have
all
3.
have about 3.
There are some people with
Yeah.
just two.
Yeah, I was referring back to like the last few stories that you've
Where
had
there
where
were
the
people with
have
15?
Yeah.
had roughly 15.
Roughly.
So-
Roughly 15.
Roughly.
An average.
So, Margaret was born in 1745 in a town near Belfast in Northern Ireland. Her father was an apothecary, just a normal guy. But it was her mother, Isabella Stewart, who had a secret claim to nobility, allegedly. And
Okay.
yeah, imagine if your mom pulled you aside and was just like,
I'm allegedly
I
a
have
royal.
something to tell you.
I'm secretly
I'm
a
a
royal.
And you're like, Mom, why are we Irish peasants?
I'm thrown for a loop because you said Isabella Stewart, and I'm like, hold up.
Gardner?
Gardner. Hold up.
Gardner? And you're like, when was Isabella Stewart Gardner born? Where was she born?
I'm doing the math in my head. What do the numbers mean, Mason?
What are the numbers? Do they add up? They don't. I looked. So,
Okay.
like most girls when they're little, Margaret was like, yes, I am a princess. My mother is secretly confirming it, allegedly.
Secretly being railed as a princess.
She wanted to secretly be railed as a princess. So she was like also upset. So not only was she obsessed with being noble, she was also obsessed with being Scottish for some reason.
Scotland.
She's
forever.
Irish. I thought there was sort of like a rivalry in between Scotland and Ireland, but that might be British propaganda.
Need you to know that
yes.
they put it aside when the British are involved.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that might be what I'm thinking of. So Margaret was like, I'm Scottish and a princess. She even obtained a certificate saying that she was Scottish. I don't know where she got that from. I also don't know why she's hooked on the Scottish thing. Anyway, like most parents in the 1700s and in Disney movies, they were not long for this world.
Yeah.
That
Disney one was a
died.
deep cut, I'll be honest. But if you are a parent in a Disney
died.
film, there's a good chance that you don't make it out of that movie.
You just don't make it.
If you're an
or you're not
immediate
even, like, in
family
the
member
picture.
of the protagonist,
You
You're
ain't
dead.
making it, bro.
You're gone.
you're not
You're not making it.
gonna make it.
Yeah, it's just I don't make the rules. I just report the facts.
I just work here.
So I just work
I
here.
just
This is a
work here.
Wendy's. So her father died when she was but a babe, and her mother was gone by the time she was 8. And her uncle shipped her off to boarding school, where she was such a terror that the boarding school was like, fuck this, like, take her back. We can't handle her. And her uncle was like, nah, son, she's awful. And then gave her to her grandma, who also couldn't control her. And you would think not being wanted by anyone would, make you, like, feel a little bad.
I was going to say, it's almost like being
but-
bounced around to multiple different homes is not great for a child.
For morale.
Yeah. For morale. For the child morale. For the vibes. But Carolyn was unbothered. She had a fast car, just like Tracy Chapman, and her fast car was a future husband named Valentine Rudd. Now, as you can imagine, Margaret was not only a terror to her family, but also pretty scandalous when it came to her relationships, aka she had them, which was not great for a young woman of 14 at this time. Yeah. I believe they call that in the biz, they would call her a slag. So people just didn't like that. So her first serious relationship was with Valentine Rudd. He was a lieutenant. She got engaged to after only 10 days of him being stationed in her hometown. She did not waste any time.
No.
Oh, she was quick with it.
No. Yeah, she spied him through her binoculars and was just like, I'm gonna
I
marry
must
that
have
guy.
him.
Yeah, I've got a fast car.
I've got a fast
And-
car. Can't sing any more of that song. Tracy Chapman will get Luke Combs to kill us.
That's true. She will. She's got him on payroll. And after getting married, they moved to London, where Margaret began rapidly accumulating debt in her husband's name. For anyone who has ever been to London, then you know that stepping foot in the city immediately causes you to accumulate debt, but she was accumulating a lot of debt.
Guys, it's just important to note also, if you were born anytime close to nowish, you accumulated debt the second your lungs began to fill with air. So, you know.
It's true.
It's no longer just
true.
the city
Take
of
that.
London that does it to you. It's simply existing in a capitalist country.
Yes.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
sorry. Did I hurt you with a
So-
feelings?
No, I mean,
I know how much
I
Zach
already
hates
know the
baby
truth.
voice, but that felt appropriate
Yep.
in the moment.
It did.
Anyways, continue. Debt.
So with her debt, that's where it always starts. She then ran off with another man and continued to bill her purchases to her husband, which drove him to financial ruin, prison, and then eventually out of the country. She was an icon. It's like, what happened to your last relationship? Oh, I caused him to flee
Don't worry
the
about
country.
it.
Don't worry about it. Why are you asking so many questions about my ex-husband? So so then we come to her relationship with, I believe this is pronounced Perot. Her relationship with the Perot brothers, who were identical twins with wildly different personalities. Robert Perot was an enterprising businessman with a family, you know, the responsible type. And Margaret married the brother who was a gambler because she has impeccable taste in men. And when I say married, what I mean is she moved in, had 3 kids, and called herself Mrs. Perot, but they never made it official. Because she was still married to the first guy, and getting a divorce at this time was like pretty impossible. We then come to more crimes. The story goes that Robert went to the bank with a bond that had been signed by a wealthy man in the area. Now remember, Robert is not her husband. Robert is her brother-in-law at this point. So he goes to the bank, and the bank guys were like, hey, we know the dude who signed that bond, and that is not his signature. So they all go to the rich guy's house, and the rich guy is like, I never signed that bond. And at that point, Margaret appears, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forged that guy's name. I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, great
And-
for laughs.
Forgery. The funniest crime on earth.
She's like, I'm a bored housewife. Like, what can I say? I just thought it would be a laugh. And the bank guys were like, a woman? So scheming? So tricky? That's crazy. And they didn't think anything of this for some reason. Like, they just let, Margaret go. They were just like, oh, Margaret, being Margaret. Then Margaret finds out, that Robert, days later, is trying to get her arrested for this. Because, the bank industry around this time was relatively new, so, forgery was a pretty serious crime. You could put someone into financial ruin just by, successfully forging their signature.
Yeah. You can do that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that today, but you could really do it back then. There weren't any checks and balances in place to be like...
Oh, got you. You can't get your life back afterwards? You
No,
just
you
then have
cannot
to
get your
forge and
life
steal
back.
somebody else's identity?
It's a vicious
It's
cycle.
it's an Ouroboros of forgery, if you will.
See,
So,
I can't
Margaret-
help but laugh because it's like, ooh, yes, you're going to underestimate this person because she's a woman. And then she goes, well, fine, fuck you. I'm going to get away with a lot of shit then.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. But she gets pretty mad when Robert is like trying to get her arrested because he's like, my reputation is on the line here. Like, I went to the bank. I tried to cash this.
But darling,
and so
think
she's
of
like,
the
oh.
shareholders.
But darling, think of that. What will they say?
Every so often, there's a line in this podcast that just makes me go. That was the one. I will not be laughing for the remainder of the podcast.
Okay, duly noted.
I'm joking. That one got me good,
she
though.
was just like, yeah, that one was a really good one. So then Margaret is just like, well, fuck you. I changed my mind. I changed my story. And she was like, I was trying to help Robert out, and now he's trying to frame me. I didn't forge the signature. My husband and his brother are the culprits, and they forged the signature. And this resulted in all of them going to jail to await trial. So the Perot brothers on trial explained that it was Margaret's fault, but in Margaret's trial, she played on the fact that she was a woman to her advantage. Like, the idea that she had tricked two men only aided in making everyone see the Perot brothers as fucking idiots.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what can I say? Like, don't underestimate
idiots.
us. Yeah, fucking idiots. Like, what, you're gonna have a lady like trick you?
You'll be outsmarted by a woman?
What are you going to do? Get tricked by a lady?
Yeah, I mean, as everyone knows, like, we were lobotomites before lobotomites were a thing. So, like, that's just science. So in the end, being a woman finally paid off, and she was allowed to go free while the Perots were executed.
Hell yeah.
Damn, dude. Imagine trying to turn the tables only to get the table turned back.
The turntables have turned.
Only to have the table get taken out from under you and you hanging above it.
Yeah. Dying.
Because they were hanged. Dying.
Suffocating.
Slowly. But Margaret wasn't done. She wrote to the Secretary of State responsible for, like, constructing the final submission to the king proposing pardon, because people were, like, writing into this guy, like, the Secretary of State being like, we've known the Perots, like, they're a well-connected family, like, they're well-known in the financial world, like, you should pardon them. And she was just like, I think you should fucking kill them. Don't pardon them.
It's just like George Carlin with fucking Thomas the Tank Engine. Why don't we just fucking kill these people?
Yeah, you're just like, fuck you. I tried to do the right thing and tell everyone that I forged it, but then you tried to tell more people the truth. And anyway, so she was just like, oh, Mr. Secretary of State, I'm but an idiot woman, but I have evidence saying that those brothers, they're gamblers and they love debt. They're in so much debt. And in the end, the Perot family was able to retain some of their connections to the financial world, but, you know, she kind of ruined the family. And then Margaret reappeared as a failed essayist and novelist in the late 1780s. She had an affair with writer James Boswell, and he thought she was great, even after learning her story. So in the end, you just need James Boswell to think you're a cool person and have him rail you. So that's my story.
I mean, sure, I'm real fucking confused about her whole deal, but you know what? I think she was confused about her whole deal.
I mean, her whole deal was she liked to lie, dude. She loved lying. Like, what else do you want me to tell you? It was a happy ending. She lived. I don't know what happened to her 3 kids, but like, whatever.
Doesn't matter. She lived. Fuck them kids.
I just picture that one meme of that girl that got in a car crash and she sent a picture just like, I lived, bitch.
I lived, bitch. She's just like,
is exactly
I'm a
what I
failed
said after I got
essayist.
off airplanes to and from San Diego.
This chick did live.
She did live. I didn't hear the part where she got hot chipped, but she also lied a lot.
I mean,
Well, I think the hot chip was just her living spicily.
Yeah, that's
I was
fair.
going to say she lived in England. They call fries chips. There was a lot of hot chip, I'm sure.
Oh, the hot chip was the friends we made along the way.
The hot chip was the friends we made along the
Something
way.
like that.
Sometimes I just like to take sentences that don't make sense and put them in.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, just fucking roll with it.
Just fucking hit it a few
That's
times.
true.
All right. I'm going to tell my story, but before I tell my story,
Dun dun dun.
I'm going to do the thing
dun,
we're
dun.
contractually obligated to do. So, for the past few weeks, for the past few podcasts, we have been talking about our sponsors, Magic Mind. Da 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 da.
Magic Mind.
For those of you that are
I've
just
already done
tuning in
John
for the
Cena
first
noise.
time, welcome. But Magic Mind has been with us for a little bit now, and they are a little health shot that is guaranteed to help you through your day a little bit. I know
my
that,
brain's magical as fuck now.
huh?
So my brain's magical as fuck now.
My brain's magic as fuck. So, Zach and Meghan and I have deeply different schedules, as well as deeply different, tolerances for caffeine. Zach will chug a pot of coffee, whereas if I drink a Pepsi in the afternoon, I can't sleep for 3 days. So,
Yeah.
Magic Mind is really kind of cool because for a little bit I was taking it to counteract the afternoon slump that I'm pretty sure everybody feels. So I would take it at around 1 o'clock before I went into work on my late days, and I found that it didn't give me like so much energy that I was jittery or anything like that, but it gave me just enough to keep me even through the night, and I didn't have any difficulty falling asleep later on, but it also kept me chugging right along, which is really nice. And on the days that I decided to take it in the morning after a bad night of sleep, it got me out of my sort of, sleepy grogginess much faster than I think coffee did for me. Tastes better than most health shots I've had. And so, it's a product I would definitely recommend. The only thing that you really have to worry about is the cordyceps. Again, they're trying to Last of Us. And when the world heats up to a point that the mushrooms can control our brains, Magic Mind will be the ones in power. That's all I have to say. But all that aside, it's a really good product, and I really enjoy it. And we were just having a conversation with one of our Patreon subscribers who's part of our Discord, that she has just started or just ordered some Magic Mind for herself to help her out with, attention and productivity. So we hope that goes well for her.
Yeah.
So, along with the sponsorship, we also get to give you guys, our dear sweet listeners, a discount on this beautiful product. And so if you go to magicmind.com/whistory and enter the code WHistory20, you will receive 20% off your order, if I remember correctly, from us fact-checking this last week when we recorded.
We did fact check last week, and it is 20% off.
So guys, obviously, all of the stuff that they put into these bottles is on their website. They're super transparent about what goes into it. We've mentioned things like ashwagandha, lion's mane. I've mentioned the cordyceps just to make a joke about Last of Us, but it is all a bunch of like healthy stuff, really good earthy, nootropic stuff, all bundled together to make you feel better, more productive, clear up the brain fog that we all sort of battle with, I'm sure, as people in this society. So if you're looking to get a piece of that, go to magicmind.com/whistory and use the code WHistory20 to get yourself 20% off shots of Magic Mind.
I will say, I think that that's something that we haven't said about Magic Mind as we've done these talks about it, is like they are super transparent about what's actually in there, and that is pretty great.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even the
used to
bottles
work-
themselves have like a list of everything, or the boxes that hold the bottles, because the bottles are relatively small.
Small.
But the boxes do say like this is everything that's in this.
Yeah.
So
And like again, I used to work for like GNC when I was in college, and some of the stuff that's like in a health store like GNC that is like you don't want to know what's in some of that stuff. So like to have a product that goes, hey, this is what's in there. It's not crap. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice. Okay, I'm going to tell my story now.
Hell yeah.
Tonight we are combining two widely talked about topics that we've talked about on this podcast before, and those are corrupt governments and World War II. And the reason that I didn't do like a big whole intro to World War II is because I'm actually not talking about the war itself, but I'm talking about something that happens post World War II, but because of the time frame, fuckery is involved. And
we're discussing the repercussions of World War II.
No. We're talking about something that happened in small town America during and post World War II.
I'm going to shut the fuck up and listen.
Hey, man, you can talk as much as you want, but I just wanted to make it clear for the audience who's used to me going like, the war's so nice they waged it twice, as a lead up, that I'm not doing that, because I'm not.
That's not happening.
I'm not doing that, guys, okay? I'm not. That won't be a thing that I say. Anyways. So our story focuses on McMinn County in Tennessee, and more importantly focuses on the town of Athens. The year of our Lord at the occurrence of the big thing in this story is 1946, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a run-up here by introducing first the villain of our story, a gentleman by the name of Paul Cantrell. Paul Cantrell was a Silver Spoon goon, and if life was a Monopoly board, his family would have owned Park Place, Boardwalk, all the railway stations, and all the utilities.
Okay.
So
I fucking hate this guy already.
Yeah, no, he's awful. And he's got hotels on all those properties and everything, so like you're getting ultimately fucked when you get onto those. But suffice to say that Paul Cantrell was rich, his family was rich, and his family did own most things in McMinn County in Tennessee.
Excellent.
And so at a certain point in Paul's life, because his early days are not really worth talking about, he decides that instead of bathing in pools of gold, he's going to try his hand at politics. But he also comes to the realization that in this small town of Athens, Tennessee, the true seat of power is sheriff.
So you went from a rich asshole playing politics to a rich asshole playing policeman. Like, this is going to go well either way.
Yeah. The reason that he chose sheriff, I will get into in a minute, but I do want to say that he won the race in 1936 by such a small margin that everyone in town accused him of having stolen the election.
Heard that before.
Yeah, we have heard that before. Unfortunately, in this case...
Probably correct.
But anyways...
Classic.
Because the townspeople couldn't find any proof, they weren't able to do anything about this to nip this in the bud, because this turns into a real dragon situation. So the reason Mr. Cantrell wanted an appointment to sheriff was because there was an incentive bonus of money for anyone that got arrested.
He doesn't have enough already?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Silver Spoon Goon seeks more money.
Rich people love money.
Rich people do love getting richer.
People fucking love that shit.
Rich people do be seeking more money. So Cantrell's appointment to sheriff gave him a $5,000 a year salary. But this policy that was in place allowed him to earn more money the more people that he arrested. So he leaned on this policy of pay by prisoner, and got himself and the deputies that he hired, that were all in his pocket, insanely rich. So he gets elected in 1936, and in 1946, this event happens. But in that 10-year span, it's believed that Cantrell and his idiot squad racked up close to $300,000 worth of fines.
Jeez.
Which in today's money is somewhere close to like millions, I think. Or like in the neighborhood of multiple millions. But essentially what they would do is when like a bus drove through town, they would get on the bus and they would find people and like arrest them for public intoxication, even though these were like cross-country buses that people were just asleep on. So they would like go on the bus and they'd be like, "You're asleep, you're drunk in public, we're going to arrest you for this." And they'd be like, I'm not fucking, that's not, hey, don't.
That's not what's happening.
Could you fucking not?
And they'd be like, "Okay, well, you're going to have to pay this fine off with the sheriff." And because Cantrell was the sheriff, obviously they ended up getting the money anyways. So, but you're probably wondering, and I mean you as in like the audience, maybe not so much my co-hosts here, how he might have been reelected to this position year after year after year. And the answer is he cheated.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay.
That seems I get that.
Yeah. He was accused of cheating to get the position, and he continued to be accused of cheating every fucking year that he went for re-election and won by a slim margin.
Hey, you know, when you're the guy who's the guy who like says who does the crimes and who doesn't, I guess it's pretty easy to get away with doing the crimes.
Yeah, because you get to say like nobody saw it.
You get to say no one saw it.
No
There's no
one saw it.
evidence. Don't mind me burning these papers.
Way.
There's no evidence.
So he, what he did in later years, as he was trying to win elections, was he would have his men steal ballots that would then just go missing, and he would have votes cast for him that were from dead people. So pretty much everything that, you know, Trump accused Biden of, but was for real in this case. But if anyone in the town tried to speak up about this, and they did often, they were labeled troublemakers and they were subject to the same fines that had made Cantrell richer than he was already.
I'm gonna fine your asses, and if you complain about it,
I'll fine you more.
Fine your asses.
It is important to note that the people of Athens had reached out to the government, the Department of Justice, the FBI. They had been, you know, raising the flag of like, he's honestly just stealing elections for himself, over and over and over again for years while this was going on. But nothing was ever done of it. And of course, I think even in my research, like one person came out to the town to see if that was true. And like you said, when the people who are deciding what's a crime and what's not are the ones who are in power and are doing the crimes, they can very easily be like, nah, that's not the case here.
I was gonna say, boy, you
That's
got
not
J.
the
Edgar
case.
Hoover in charge of the fucking FBI at that time. He's
I
busy
know.
with a lot of other shit.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot going on. But I think it's like any internal investigation where it's like we sent ourselves to investigate ourselves and we found no wrongdoing.
And guess what? We say ourselves is good.
We're good. So Cantrell reduced the number of polling places. I think there had been 24 before, and he reduced it to 12. And he had also, stolen the ballots, all that good stuff. He had taken to, they were just counting ballots in the jail, and anyone who tried to get in to see the ballots being counted were, run out of the jail. And then eventually the town. But in 1942, Paul Cantrell decides he wants to run for a higher position in government and instead appoint one of his underlings to the role of sheriff. And so he appoints a man named Pat Mansfield to this position, and Mansfield ends up being villain number 2 of this story.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
As if one wasn't enough.
As if one wasn't enough. Correct. Mansfield basically chokes the system worse than Cantrell had, and makes it so that anything that takes place in the town of Athens has to be approved of by the police. So if you're trying to get a job, if you're trying to, print an article in the paper, it has to be run by the police first. It becomes, to say it not so lightly, it becomes Nazi Germany in this rural part of America.
I was about to say, we went from just extortion to a police state.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah, so, not great. And all this happens under Mansfield. Where am I in my notes? In 1946, the volunteers from Athens, Tennessee, there were 3,000 volunteers. Obviously, not all 3,000 made it home, but those who had gone to fight in World War II came back home, and immediately they become targets for the corrupt police because they're home with pay from the war, and all this good shit. And so the police are like, shh, fuck, we can arrest them and get paid.
Sheesh. That's a lot of cash.
What?
That's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of
that they're
cash.
walking around with. That cash could go in the police's hands.
So, the World War II veterans got beaten and harassed on an almost constant basis.
Oh, okay. Great.
The veterans then decided that they needed to end this corruption, and so they started to meet in secret so that they could find ways to thwart Cantrell and his mob squad. 2 months before the next election, the veterans announced that 5 of their number would be running, and a man named Henry Knox was running against Cantrell, who decided that state legislature wasn't for him and he was running for sheriff again. And a lot of people think that he did this because he wasn't getting paid like he used to. So he wanted to go back to being sheriff so that he could line his pockets again.
Yeah, classic.
But again, a lot of the typical shenanigans that Cantrell was known for, him just beating people in the streets or getting his police to do that, came up in attempts to thwart these elections. He got some of the veterans arrested, which then cost them their ability to vote. He, did this, that, the other to try and make it impossible for people to vote. And so seeing that they probably weren't going to get the type of justice that they wanted, the veterans did all the things that the townspeople thought to do, which was contact the FBI, contact the Department of Justice. And when they received no response from any of those people, they contacted, their attorney general and, all their state reps and all that shit. Got no responses, and so they formed a militia of 60 men.
Yeah.
Yep.
That they nicknamed themselves the Fighting Bunch.
Short, simple, to the point.
Yeah, exactly. The Fighting Bunch, like the
I
Brady
like
Bunch,
it.
but worse. Or better?
Better.
Better.
Where this seems to be going, better.
And Cantrell thinks to himself not to be outdone, but I'm going to hire some thugs. So he does. He hires 200 out-of-state deputies. And on election day, the same things that have been happening continue happening. The veterans are getting beat while they're going to the polls to try and vote. Men of color are being called racial slurs. Children under the age of 18 are being allowed to vote because nobody's stepping in to stop them because they're voting for Cantrell. And a gentleman, one of the veterans actually ends up getting shot. Although from my research, I couldn't tell if he was fatally shot or if he was just shot and wounded. The leader of the Fighting Bunch sees all this happen during the day, and then the ballots are picked up and pulled back to the jail where they'll be counted. This gentleman's name is Bill White, and he decides that he's not going to let this fly. And he gets his men to raid a local National Guard outpost for weaponry and supplies, and they decide that they're going to launch an assault on the local jail. So the veterans take up positions in the high ground, and they just start to rain bullets on the jail. And it's obviously like a jail is a fortified position. So the deputies that had been hired retreated inside. They're holed up for a long time. Bill White and his men start throwing Molotov cocktails, which sort of just shatter ineffectively on the side of the jail. And while they've been shelling this position for a while, an ambulance eventually pulls up.
Okay.
And Bill White and his men think that it's an ambulance that's going to see to the wounded that are inside. The guy that got shot earlier in the day. But they weren't sure if they maybe had wounded some people while they were retreating inside the prison, and so they're like, okay, we're going to stop shooting just to make sure that if we hurt anybody, they can get the care that they need to. But this ambulance, as it turns out, is a front for Cantrell and Mansfield to flee the jail.
Jesus
So they get into this ambulance and they just drive away, and the veterans just continue to shoot the jail. They end up throwing sticks of dynamite, but because this shooting had gone on for a long time, the deputies that remained in the building, because their leaders left them with no fucking structure. They were they didn't tell them what to do or anything like that. The deputies just surrendered to the veterans.
Fucking figure it out. See you later.
Good.
So what ends up happening is the ballots don't get voted, and instead the 5 people that were running for public office just get appointed to public office, and they start the townspeople start to plan for what could happen in the eventuality that Cantrell returns, but he never does.
Good.
And so that's kind of how the story ends, is that these people are they just go into these positions of power in the town, and the town, supports them fully because they finally ousted a corrupt politician.
Nice.
Man, I wish that could happen. now.
Yeah.
Me too.
That'd be nice.
It would be a good time.
I guess the Republicans think that is what happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
They can think all they
But-
fucking want, but, you know...
Little do they know they're the bad guys.
Yeah. Little do they know.
Little do
That or
they know.
and
Little
they
do
don't
they-
give a fuck.
They're like, we're solidly in the right.
But
Man,
yeah,
America's
that's...
really gone downhill.
I don't know. With the story that Matt just said, I don't know if it has gone downhill. I think it's been the
I mean,
America
same.
it definitely
really-
has gone downhill
it's-
since 1946.
I mean...
It's gone downhill in a lot of areas. You know what? I can't even say the racism. The racism has gotten worse.
Racism is bad.
Racist is bad, yeah.
Racism's
I was, like,
bad.
trying to
Nazis are
think-
still bad.
Yeah, the Nazis are still around, surprisingly. Thought they wouldn't be, but here we are.
Thought we fucking fixed that problem.
Thought we fixed it. Didn't.
Of course we did.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Man, we're ending on a sad note tonight.
We are ending on a sad note, which
Surprise!
is usually your forte, but
Okay, rude.
but yeah, that's the end of my story, and we can do our outro stuff now.
Yeah, that's a wild fucking story.
It is a
I don't know,
wild
it's-
story.
It's a lot.
As we end on a sad note.
As we end on that note, though.
As we end on that note of racism and Nazis being back, I'm sure you're wondering, what is good?
What's good is us. We do our best to keep you entertained, even if we leave on a weird note sometimes. But
There we go.
thank you all for joining
Bring it
us
back around.
in our illustrious endeavors to bring you the weirdest shit that humanity has ever done. But if you wish to support us, we'd really appreciate it. And the easiest way you can do that is following us on our socials. If you follow us on Instagram at _triumvirate_productions. Find us on Facebook if you look up the Triumvirate Productions. And if you want to support us monetarily, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Triumvirate Productions, where we have $3, $5, and $10 levels. Whole bunch of bonuses depending on which level you sign up for. Thank you once again to Magic Mind for sponsoring our episode. You can get Magic Mind yourself if you so wish at magicmind.com/whistory, and you can get 20% off your order with our code WHistory20. That is magicmind.com/whistory, and the code is WHistory20. But yeah, also, if you can't support us monetarily, I meant to say this earlier. If you can't support us monetarily, don't break the bank trying to do it, but you can also just tell a friend about us. We don't pay to advertise this show. Or you can give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. By giving us a rating and review, it tells the algorithm that people are actually listening to us. For some reason, it doesn't matter how many times you listen. It only matters if you give us 5 stars, which is dumb, but so is technology. So if you give us a rating and review,
That's
it
true.
helps us kind of bump up the charts and be seen by some other people. So thank you again for listening. We really appreciate it. We can't do this show without our wonderful listeners, and we really appreciate them. So
Yeah. Especially the people that are our Patreon subscribers. I know you just said don't break the bank, but we do get to interact a little bit more personally with Patreon subscribers because we have a Discord that's special just for them right now. So
yeah.
definitely, I mean, if you have the money, come hang out with us. If you don't have the money, that's fine too. You're hanging out with us by listening or letting us be in your ear holes and stuff. So that's cool too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Yeah,
to discredit
that's
anything.
a way to say it.
But anyways,
Ear holes.
ear holes.
Ear holes.
So I was told by one of our aforementioned Discord members that weeks ago you cut me off as I was about to say what the fuck history.
Who did?
You did. You
Me?
edit this
Moi?
podcast.
Oh.
You silly
Oops.
goose.
He says it, surprised.
So anyways,
Me?
just letting you guys know that I'm going to say the thing that I say at the end of every podcast. What the fuck, history?